Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Amber Valley series. There are 35 parishes in this beautiful slice of eastern Derbyshire. Here's one for your viewing pleasure. Welcome back to Amber Valley, everybody. Now this morning you find me outside probably one of the most picturesque churches I've seen so far in Amber Valley, with a nice tall spire right there, right next to the War Memorial Cross. Well out of the main village this. It sort of sits on the side of a riverbank, which we'll be talking a bit about in this episode. That river is the River Ecclesbourne, and we'll also be talking a lot about railways in this episode too. Welcome to Duffield. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to a big one, folks. This is Duffield, located 5 miles north of Derby and centred on the western bank of the River Derwent and the mouth of the River Ecclesbourne. It's located within the Derwent Valley Mills World Heritage Area and the southern foothills of the Pennines. In times past, the parish of Duffield was much larger than it is now, covering the area known as Duffield Frith. At that time, it also included other settlements like Holbrook, for example. Before the 19th century, Duffield was mainly an agricultural settlement. It had 2 cattle fairs held on the Thursday after New Year's Day and on the 1st of March. Industry did exist, however. Both ironstone and coal were to be found in this part of Derbyshire, and it's thought these were what originally attracted the Ferrars family to the area. There are frequent references to ironworking in historical records. There were also several corn mills and quarries too. At the turn of the 19th century, however, the major occupation in the village was framework knitting. The biggest changes came first in the 1840s with the opening of the railways, and then again in 1910 thanks to the car giant Rolls-Royce. Duffield has several historical landmarks, including the remains of a castle to the north of the village, which once stood on a huge mound overlooking the 2 rivers. It's open to the public, and it will be featured on this route, along with loads more. So let's stop talking and let's get walking. Let's go. We begin at St Alkmund's Church, which stands around a quarter of a mile away from the centre of the village. Its unusual position is due to the river, which runs close by. It's thought the church's original purpose was to serve travellers crossing the river between Ashbourne and Nottingham. The dedication to St Alkmund is also noteworthy. He was originally buried in Shropshire but was moved to Derby because of Viking raids. His sarcophagus can be seen in Derby Museum. The church building is 14th century but was restored in 1847 and 1896. In the north transept is a monument to Anthony Bradshaw, which he erected himself 14 years before he died. He was the grandfather of John Bradshaw, who condemned Charles I to death. Outside we have the Duffield Cross, which lists the 63 men of the village who died in the 2 world wars. And serving this whole area is a massive car park, and almost next door there's a pub called the Bridge Inn, named as such thanks to the bridge over the river. Now, there are two things which will make several appearances in this episode. One of them is this railway line. We will see this a couple of times. I've got to walk under it in a few moments because I'm going to park for my main walk at Meadow, which is, well, I'll show you what that is in a moment. And there's a tunnel which goes underneath the railway line and into the main village of Duffield. Let's go and find that, shall we? Meadow is a 48-acre sports and recreation site and the home of Duffield's cricket and football teams. Here, you're looking at Duffield Cricket Club. All the trees on Meadow were planted in November 1989, according to a stone you can find close to Irwin's Gate. Meadow can boast 6 football pitches, and the teams that play on them include Duffield Dynamos Football Club. The River Derwent runs alongside the site, and it's popular with fishermen from the Derby Angling Federation. In addition to sport, Meadow is also used for an annual village carnival and the Ice Have It Festival. It's also got a parish notice board, so that's that jobbed. Right next to the cricket club is the Millennium Meadow, a local nature reserve created in 1999, bounded on 3 sides by the Derwent and the Ecclesbourne. And you can walk into Duffield from here via this tunnel, which runs under the railway line. This is the Midland Main Line, and we're about to follow it. So here we go then, under the tunnel. It's not a very tall tunnel. I can reach up and touch the top here, look. That's how if I stretch, I could probably reach that above it. Anyway, let's go under the tunnel. Mind my head as I go. A little bit echoey in here, but never mind. Now, I hope you like railways because in a moment we're going to be seeing something railway related. If we head up Styles Walk to the right, just after the tunnel, you'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. Duffield has a lot of railway history. What you're looking at here is the timetable for the Ecclesbourne Valley Railway, a heritage line which was reopened in 2011 between Duffield and Wirksworth. The EVR, as it's known, was originally a branch line from the Midland Main Line and was built by the North Midland Railway. Now, my route was meant to go through the station which serves this line, but as you can see, it was closed. It opens every day at 10 AM and I was just way too early. So, forced to change my route, I headed down Chapel Street. Here's the chapel, a former Wesleyan effort which dates from 1843. It was shown as a United Free Chapel on later OS maps. The end of Chapel Street brings us to the River Ecclesbourne, responsible of course for the name of the railway and a few other things besides. The EVR's route effectively follows the course of this river. It flows for 9 miles from Wirksworth, draining into the Derwent close to Meadow. It'll make several appearances later. So that enforced change of route means you're seeing this area a lot earlier than I originally anticipated. No matter, these things happen. I can change my route on the fly, and I can still get to Duffield Station if I take the next right turn. Let's go. This is the entrance to the modern Duffield railway station, which is unmanned and served by East Midlands Railway, who operate local services from Derby to Matlock. This is not the original station. Duffield's first was built in 1841 by the North Midland Railway, a year after the line opened. It was originally a few yards further north from its present position. In 1867, the station was moved and turned into a V-shape when the branch line to Wirksworth, now the EVR, was built. Passenger traffic to Wirksworth ceased in 1947, and as a result the station building was demolished in 1969, leaving a wayside halt serving trains on the main line only. Only the station master's house, which became a private residence, and the small luggage store, which was just outside the gate, remained, but both have now been demolished also. Of course, there is one other railway line Duffield was known for, the Duffield Bank Railway, but you'll have to wait for today's special section to hear about that one. So that last section around the station was filmed in a little bit of a rain shower. Hopefully the rain doesn't intensify at any point because my coat's still in the car and I'm a long way now from Meadow. I'll show you where I am. We've come up Milford Road and in front of us here is a street called Castle View. And it's called Castle View because Duffield has a castle. Let's go and find that. The remains of Duffield Castle stand to the north of the village centre on top of a tall mound known as Castle Hill. In Norman times it was built to protect the hunting grounds of Duffield Frith, awarded to Henry de Ferrars by William I. De Ferrars was the man responsible for building the much more well-known Tutbury Castle in Staffordshire, but to protect his lands further north he needed a second castle. This was where he chose to site one. Originally, Duffield Castle was wooden, but at some point both Tutbury and Duffield Castles were rebuilt in stone. Duffields originally occupied more than 5 acres of land and had a massive stone keep which spanned 98 feet in length and 95 feet in breadth, making it only slightly smaller than the White Tower in London. Whilst in the possession of Robert de Ferrars in 1269, it was razed to the ground. Its site was rediscovered in 1885, and in 1899 it became one of the earliest archaeological monuments cared for by the National Trust. So just be warned, if you want to come and see Duffield Castle, the remains of it, you have to walk up a set of steps, and this is quite a steep climb. So yeah, it's not wheelchair friendly, I'm afraid, people. So, you know, you have to climb these stairs to see them. There's quite a few. We're just going to head back down them because there's no way out on the other side. You have to come up and down to get in and out. So down the steps. When we reach the bottom, I'm turning left again and we're heading into a residential area next. In 1910, Duffield began expanding thanks to car giant Rolls-Royce arriving in Derby. Many grand houses were built in the village's north, mainly along Hazelwood Road. With all that extra population, it's no wonder Duffield Cemetery, also on Hazelwood Road, is so large. It dates back to 1895 and has 3 beautiful Grade 2 listed structures: the chapel, the lodge and the committee room. Unusually for a modern cemetery, the chapel can still be used for small funerals and can accommodate up to 46 people. Moving on, Duffield has always been well served with pubs, although some no longer exist. Here's a house which was once one of them. It was called the New Inn, but it's now a private residence. The further down Hazelwood Road you go, the more big grand stone houses you come across. Check out these for example. Eventually the road becomes King Street, crosses the Ecclesbourne Valley Railway and rejoins the village centre close to the station. However, my route is not that simple. We're going a much more interesting way. Gotta tell you, there's some beautiful properties around this part of Duffield, and there's another one behind us. That's the Old Hall. Now we're going to head up the pastures next across to the River Ecclesbourne again. There's a few more things to see around there. Just before we do, I want to show you something. If I turn the camera around, you can see a big wall and a lot of trees and hedges. There's a school behind there, but obviously I can't see it because they're all in the way. So yeah, never mind. Using a footbridge over the EVR, we're heading for Holloway Road, another street where Rolls-Royce inspired housing was built. Off that road is Snake Lane, where we find Gray's Recreation Ground. Now I think this is named after MP Anchitall Gray, a member of a committee appointed to settle the manor of Duffield Frith in 1670. After passing through the park, we're again beside the River Ecclesbourne. This is a lovely stretch of the river. The Ecclesbourne at this point is literally ankle deep and crystal clear. It runs either side of an island, which is what you can see on the other side here. It's called Duck Island and has a street that runs for almost its entire length. The path brings us to Tamworth Street, which is lined with beautiful stone cottages. At one time, many of these would have been thatched. There were several pubs around here too. In neighbouring Crown Street is the Pattern Maker's Arms, named after a type of clog that people made there. There was also the Crown Inn too, at the top of Crown Street. Here we go, look, I wasn't kidding. It really is called Duck Island. Absolutely quackers. King Street again now, and that's Trinity Methodist Church. It was built in 1904, but Methodism has been a thing in Duffield since 1777. It's a well-used building. At the end of King Street is a business called Customer Plus. It occupies an old bank building which still retains its wall-mounted clock. Lovely. We're now coming into the village centre where Duffield's main shops and amenities are located. This is Kale and Corn. When it opened in 2022, it was the first new greengrocers the village has had in 25 years. The tall building there is the Town Street Tap, which prides itself as the home of Duffield Amber, a locally brewed drink. The main row of shops include a chippy, a hair salon, a bakery, a post office and an estate agent's, but there's far too many to list them all. There are also other small retail areas off Town Street too. The local tennis and squash club can be found off Town Street as well. Duffield was voted the Derbyshire Tennis Club of the Year in 2016, 17 and 19. Now, where would a place of this size be without a pub or two? It's certainly got some of those. Here we are, we have the White Hart, established 1839 according to the writing on its wall. And across the way, you've got a little shop and a bus stop. There's the number 6.1 there, which goes to Bakewell, connects Duffield to Bakewell. So we're just going to stroll down here a little bit further, and in a moment I'm going to take a right turn down Wirksworth Road because I'm heading for Ecclesbourne School next, which is down there. That's Duffield's local secondary school. As you turn onto Wirksworth Road, there's a small garden. Buried under this stone is a time capsule placed here in the year 2000. I wonder what went into that. Moving along the street, we have Duffield's Library. This is open 4 days a week and hosts a craft club on Monday mornings. Just beyond this is Ecclesbourne School. Another landmark named after the river, Ecclesbourne School was founded in 1957 after Duffield's population had grown to more than 5,000 thanks to housing estates built by George Wimpey. It originally occupied a small site in the grounds of Duffield Hall. It became a comprehensive school in 1976 and was recognised for its excellence in 1999, being awarded beacon status by the government. It's one of only 2 schools in Derbyshire to receive the Health Promoting Schools Award too. It wasn't the easiest thing to capture either, thanks to all the trees and bushes outside it. Next, we're off to find some of those housing estates that facilitated its creation. So as well as the Ecclesbourne School, there's also a primary school called Duffield Meadows, but the route doesn't pass that. It's not a million miles away from where I'm stood right here, actually. I'm on the end of Granville Close. It's kind of in that direction over there. So yeah, there's a primary school called Duffield Meadows as well. Now the rest of this route is primarily residential. It will take us around in a big loop back towards the village centre, and from there it's just a simple case of walking back across to Eyes Meadow. Don't think there's a lot left, but you never know, there could be something else of interest. On the end of Hall Farm Road is a junction with New Zealand Lane. Here there's an old service station and a small row of shops. Back in the 1900s, most of this area was all fields with a few sporadically placed houses. 2 main housing estates were built. This is what's known as the Hall Farm Estate. The second was between Wirksworth Road and the River Ecclesbourne. Within the estate is St Margaret Clitheroe, a Catholic church built in 1981 on a plot of land purchased as the estate was being built. Behind this is a path which leads to Derby Road, and that takes us past the local scout building. Scout groups have been running in Duffield for over 100 years. On Derby Road we encounter another religious building. That's Duffield Baptist Chapel, and historical records show there was once a forge close by here. And then on the left, behind some railings, is the Bradshaw Stone. It used to stand in front of the Bradshaw almshouses, which were pulled down in 1804. Now, just before we complete the route, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that's this building here, which you can find next to the railings where the Bradshaw stone is. Any idea what that is? Well, you're soon going to find out if you don't know. This magnificent building is Duffield Hall, a 17th century country house and formerly the headquarters of the Derbyshire Building Society. It's a Grade II listed building. Originally owned by the Newton family, it became the home of Henry Cope in 1703, who was High Sheriff of Derbyshire. The MP, Rowland Smith, lived here too in the 1860s and 70s. From 1908 until 1970, the house was occupied by St Ronan's School. In 1977, the property was acquired by the Derbyshire Building Society, for whom it was restored and extended. Its grounds would become St Ronan's Avenue, a residential street which runs behind the hall. Duffield Hall isn't the only magnificent building along here. As you walk back up Town Street, you'll see the Meadows. You can't really miss it, being that tall, can you? It dates back to 1798 and it's Grade II listed. And over the road there's more, including the impressive Archway House. Some of these buildings would have been coaching inns because this part of the A6 used to be a turnpike. Okay, and we find ourselves on the same path which goes underneath the Midland Main Line, the one that goes underneath the tunnel. I'll be walking back under that in a few moments' time, and that's been quite the adventure around Duffield. It's taken me nearly 2 hours to get around this one. Quite a big place, there's no denying that. Thankfully, most of Amber Valley is smaller than this one, so should be one of the bigger episodes, this one in the district. I've enjoyed it though, and I hope you have too. So, you want more railway history? How about this? The Duffield Bank Railway is something seldom spoken about, but really, it should be more. It was located within the grounds of a house owned by Sir Arthur Percival Heywood on Duffield Bank, a fairly steep hillside to the east of the village. The railway was built as kind of an experiment, as Heywood wished to explore the possibilities of using minimum gauge lines for mining, quarrying, agriculture, and for use by the military for ammunition and supplies. His track was 1 mile long and had sharp curves, tunnels and steep gradients, which demonstrated the versatility of the line. There were 6 stations on the line too. Although he regularly demonstrated the line to entrepreneurs and the military, the only person to take an interest was the Duke of Westminster, who asked him to build a line at Eaton Hall in Cheshire. The Perrygrove Railway in Gloucestershire was also built with Sir Arthur's work very much in mind. It's a very important part of railway history today. And that's been Duffield, folks. Gorgeous place in Derbyshire, but then again, aren't they all out here? Next week, we'll be exploring somewhere with connections to Duffield, but it's a much smaller, out-of-the-way kind of place. Did I find any good bits though? You bet I did. Come back next week to see exactly what. See you later. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.